This is Across the Streams Media Podcast.
I wanna know what you're thinking.
Definitely be a lot of
Some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey everyone, this is Aaron with Front Row Negative, back with another episode. And it's been a while. I'm trying to get on a weekly schedule rotation, but unfortunately, life happens. So now it's maybe once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. I don't know. There's no scheduling with Front Row Negative. When it happens, it happens. But it's happening right now, and you're listening to us, and thank you so much. But this time, this week, this month, I don't know. I have a guest. This guest, I've been on his show a few times, and it's only kind enough of me to return the favor to bring him onto my show. We've talked about him coming on, and for some reason, life finally found a way to quote the great and majestic Jeff Goldblum. He is finally here. It is the Spidey Librarian. Tony, how are you doing?
Doing good. Hey everyone, Spidey Librarian here. That's how I introduce all my videos. So
That is true, and
the podcast,
and the podcast. Go subscribe to him. Go listen to those old episodes. Go listen to the most recent ones. They're fun. You will learn a lot about Spider-Man. You'll learn a lot about the history. You'll hear my voice a few times, and we get into some really good conversations about villains, actors, movies that should have made it, movies that should not have been made, and why they happened. But go check those out. But we'll get to those plugs toward the end of the show. But for right now, sir, it's great to have you on. Finally happening on this side.
I'm excited to be here.
So you are the Spidey Librarian. The Spidey Librarian of Houston, probably of Texas. I do know that there is another Spidey Librarian, but their account is private on Instagram, and I don't know where they're at. So I don't know where that location is. That could be your Venom. That could be your anti-Venom. I don't know.
Could be my Norman Osborn.
But the question is, how do you become a librarian? I mean, that's kind of just, it's just one of those jobs that you see. It looks like it'll be fun because I read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You do the programs, the reading programs, which
yes,
my kids love the library reading programs. They're both involved with it. My daughter Gwen, excelling at it. She's already past her time frame of what she's supposed to do. Parker, on the other hand, the old Parker look is kind of getting on to him, and he's just a little bit behind.
It's all right.
Two sides of the seesaw, two different sides of the seesaw.
I mean, and everybody learns in different ways too, and that also comes down to kind of summertime activities. Some things are going to be more engaging to one person than another, and it's one of the reasons why, for instance, in my library system's summer reading program, we tell people, if you want to read, go ahead, but audiobooks also count. Really, almost any piece of media that you can consume can count, as long as you can either attach a page count or the amount of time that you spend engaging with that media. And so, it's partially to acknowledge a wide range of just different learning and information synthesis styles that people have. So, but as to the earlier question, which you asked, how do you become a librarian? Actually, believe it or not, I went to library school. Like, you actually get a master's degree in information science, which you get after you have done undergrad. At that point, once you got your undergrad degree, then you can apply to essentially graduate school. But you can, a lot of universities across the country have like masters of library science programs or masters of science in library science programs, all that different stuff. So, but, kind of with any of those degrees, then a lot of library job postings or librarian job postings look for that. So that's kind of how you do it. There are some instances of people getting librarian, like professional librarian jobs without the degree, but they're kind of few and far between. So for the most part, you still have to put in the extra year or two of kind of graduate school in order to qualify for those kinds of positions.
That's interesting. So
A
in
lot of my friends are surprised when I tell them that I had to go to school for this.
in junior high, I worked in the library because that could be one of your credits.
Mhm.
And in high school, in my junior year, I worked in the library for Old Dobie on the southeast side of Houston.
Yeah.
I worked in the library for one semester, so I know the card catalog, or I used to know the card catalog back. That's how old I am, because card catalog was a thing before
Yep.
going to the computer, getting
I
the little golf
remember.
pencil, writing it down where the book is located, and going to find it. But the card catalog was a big thing, and yeah, we had to learn that. We had to spend. Well, we'll take it back. We were given 2 weeks to learn the card catalog. 2 weeks, and if we couldn't learn it, then we weren't. We were kind of transferred out of the library to a different school job helping system type thing.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I learned it fairly quickly. So so when I'll go to my old library and be like, okay, I know where all the Calvin and Hobbes books are at. I know where all the trade
Mhm.
paperbacks are at. I know where all the drawing books are at. I know all of that. So uh, that's what I remember. That's what I remember.
I remember, it's funny because when I was in undergrad, uh, my college still had like the big library card catalogs where you had to pull out the drawers and look through the paper cards and everything to find something. And it's really funny because like by the time I graduated, that was basically on its way out. Like people were starting
Hmm.
to pull those apart because they were going to catalog computers, which were kind of in their infancy at the time. And then by the time I got to library school, it was just like, okay, everything is pretty much gone to computers by this point. So it was a pretty quick movement. It just depended on how quickly individual libraries decided to adopt it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's pretty interesting how they went. In my lifetime, they went from cards to computer check-in systems to now just basically you could go online, find your book at the library, reserve it already, literally go pick it up at the door,
Yep.
and not even have to go into a library.
Yes, yes, it's great for introverts. If you don't want to interact with people, there are ways to do it. And we have, I mean, we work with a wide swath of the public and including people who were just like they used to just come into the library, like they would place their holds. They knew where the hold section was. They would just come in, go in, grab their book, and then if they had to, they'd check out with a person. But
Hmm.
some people, if they could find like the self checkouts, they would just do it themselves, not have any interaction with a library staff member. They get their stuff and they're just gone. And I say more power to those people, more power to introverts.
Well, they're introvert until they have those library late fees.
Oh,
So
yes. Oh,
so
yes.
I remember when I was a kid, I went to the library and I rented 3 books. I rented it was do you remember the old like monster Universal Monster theme books, the gold ones?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I had the Godzilla one. I rented the Godzilla one. I
Why am I
rented
not
a
surprised?
Yeah. Yeah, that would get me in trouble. I rented a Godzilla one. I rented a Where's Waldo book, and I
Okay.
rented a Covile Aliens Ate My Homework book. And
Okay.
I rented those the day after the last day of school. I think it was elementary. I think it was fourth grade. And unbeknownst to me, my parents were going to ship us off to my grandmother's house for the summer.
Oh.
So
Mhm.
library, you have I think we had a week. Like it's a week rental book, right? Those books sat literally on my bed for the entire summer, from May until the last week in August. Late fees.
Wow.
So didn't think anything of it. I get back, we're fine. It wasn't until like literally the first day of school set started that we get home, we're doing homework. There's a knock on our door. This is a guy representing the library wanting his books, and he
What?
wants the fee, and he wants the fee as well.
Oh my
So
God.
we ended up paying, it was like around, I think it was like around $10 for late fees,
Okay.
plus give us back the books, which I never even
Yeah.
got to read. I never even got to read them.
Well,
But
I mean, your folks sent you off without telling you
yeah,
about it. I figured that was a nice way to stick it to them, even if you weren't planning to do that. So, you
pretty
know.
much. I mean, I just remember like opening the door, and the guy asked to speak to our parents, and some parents are talking to them. They're like, "What?" And they don't understand why the library Gestapo is stopping at her house.
Well, I mean, I kind of want to go back to that because I'm like, what is this library like collections person that we've got here? Like we don't have anything like that, and
Probably not
it's
now.
certainly news. Yeah, it's certainly news to me. But yeah, like yeah, nowadays if you have too many late fees, like we'll deactivate your card, and
Hmm.
if you're someone who uses like audiobook, like e-audiobooks or databases or anything, like that access will go and you'll know real quick why your library card isn't working, you know. So
Oh yeah,
um
library card
yeah.
was deactivated, or it was canceled. We had to pay the fee. We had to go reapply uh, for the
What?
library card. We
Wow.
were limited to only 2 books per checkout on a probationary period. Yeah,
Wow,
it
that
was
is
it was crazy. So I remember that one, was it? It was the episode of I think Married with Children, where the owl has that book that he had when he was a kid.
I know that episode.
I felt attacked. I felt I felt attacked. Ah,
I mean, you're definitely not the only person who has ever had that kind of scenario. Like the reason that they shot that specific scene in Married with Children or that little storyline is because so many people have had to deal with that kind of
yes.
thing. You know, it's just, and it's not that big a deal, but you know, so many people have had to do it, and there are probably a million different variations on that story, you know, where some libraries are nicer about it than others and so on and so forth. But like, yeah, God, when you brought that episode up, I'm like, I've seen that episode. I've seen it, you know.
Yeah,
So,
and it was funny because the guy who came to collect, the Gestapo guy, the FBI agent for the library,
yeah.
technically, he was really the husband of one of I guess, the managers over there, and uh, they were surprised because my account, because I did summer reading programs through Bracewell, that
Mhm.
library area that's in the southeast side by Alameda Mall.
Yeah.
Um, I was a normal there. I was always going there, and so they didn't understand what happened. So what they would do is that they would come throughout the day, throughout the weeks, about a month or so after me checking out the uh, the books, the check, and nobody was home because my parents were at work. So uh, finally they show up. They see cars outside, and it's like after 6 o'clock, and there's a knock. I'm like, we're not expecting anybody. Yeah, they're the library agent showing up to get those books. But it was, yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
That's just one that I've never heard. I've never quite heard a story like that with regard to the library. So that is definitely crazy, and you know, something that if I had known about it going into library school, I would have started just asking my professors about. So what is this library Gestapo thing that we've got going? You know, and they probably would have thought I was crazy, but I would have wanted to know. You know, like what is going on here? You know, like.
It's like, hey, thaw out the e-reader 1000. He's time to go. Thaw him out.
Oh man, I love the Terminator reference.
Thaw him out. He needs to go get our books back. And he's
All
gonna show up
right.
at somebody's house. Show up at somebody's house. Come with me if you want to read. Yank him out.
I will get your books for you. I'll be back, you know.
That's right. With late fees.
You
Blockbuster. But
didn't ever play the Space Quest series of games from Sierra Online, did you?
I did not. No, I did not.
Okay. The reason I ask, and I know this is maybe getting a little off topic, but there was a foe that you had to contend with, I think in the second game, and they basically modeled him after the Terminator, and he looked like Arnold and all this other stuff. It was really funny. For some reason that just kind of triggered that image. So
So speaking of the summer stuff, I know we talked a little bit about the summer reading programs and everything like that. And there's always reading programs. I remember when I was growing up, even through high school, in the 90s, they had two different programs. And it felt like the two different library districts in my area had rivaling programs. You had Rabdar Gab, or you had Book It, one of those two.
Okay. Hmm.
And my wife, she talks about doing Book It all the time. Her thing was Book It. I'm like, no, I did Rabdar Gab. That was our thing because we got paid. But at some point, they ran out of money to give kids, so we ended up getting pizza coupons instead. We ended up getting
Right.
Pizza Hut coupons because
Yep.
they ran out of money to give the kids
Yep.
who were reading. And with me, I would burn through so many books during those programs that I would hit the limit, and they're like, okay, we can't give you any more pizza coupons. We can't give you any more money. We can't. Here, just take a book. Just take it. And so that was my ended up thing. But have you done any of those programs? Have you personally done any of those programs yourself, or no?
Well, I certainly remember the Pizza Hut ones. I remember, read this many books.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you had to like do a book report or something like that. And then like, you basically at the end of the program, if you'd read enough, you could redeem it for like a personal pan pizza coupon or something like that. I certainly remember those. And then I'm not like Book It sounds familiar, but I'm not familiar with how they work. What was their thing?
I think I remember my wife telling me that you read a certain amount, and you either got coupons to a local, you either got gift certificates or coupons or something like that. So you
Okay.
either got gift certificates or coupons.
Okay.
But I never did that program, so I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
that certainly sounds a lot like the kind of summer reading program that Harris County Public Library, my library system,
mhm.
does. And I'm pretty sure that Houston Public Library still does a very similar type of program. In fact, your library, the one you go to, is the Robinson West Chase one, right?
Yes, that's the one we currently go to, is that one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a Houston Public Library location. So you're participating in their summer reading program. And I used to
Hmm.
work for Houston Public, but my understanding is that they still do something very similar to what we do, where you either read for X number of hours or or X number of books, essentially. And then those are worth certain point values, and then when you hit like 100, 200, and like 300, you
Hmm.
qualify for certain prizes. And at one point, those prizes include a book of your choosing from whatever's on their cart and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that sounds kind of like the way that a lot of public library systems that I've worked in at least do them. So
Yeah. And like I was saying earlier, Gwen has already maxed out. She's hit all of her hours. She's done at Parker. He hasn't hit the halfway point yet. So the halfway prize for the kids is a free book from the library table or the book
okay.
box,
Hmm.
whatever. And we talked. I was asking you about what your library might have had
Yeah.
earlier, and Parker hasn't hit that spot yet. Gwen has already hit that spot, and she's already finished. Technically, she's already finished before the month is even out. She's already done.
So she's just kind of a naturally voracious reader then, huh?
Pretty much, pretty much.
That's
If
nice.
it's she's more like lately, she's been into the Goosebumps, the R.L. Steins.
Ooh, she's
Um,
developing a horror movie
she is.
instinct. Nice,
Um,
nice.
but she's also, there's that one book author series that's like Smile and Sisters, and what's the other book name? The title.
Oh, Raina Telgemeier?
Yes,
Yeah,
she's like really big into that author. Like that's like her
I
go-to
have
right now.
actually met and briefly worked with Raina Telgemeier when she was at Teen Book Con, probably close to a decade ago, if not more. But she was one of the graphic novelist guests, and I was the person kind of like doing all the graphic novel like panels and stuff like that for that. So yeah, I've met her. She's very sweet. So
That's really cool. That is really
yeah.
cool. If she's ever in town, let me know. Gwen would freak
Oh,
because
oh,
that's like her favorite right now. That's
absolutely, absolutely. During one year, and I guess this is kind of a little perk that you can find if you're a librarian, but I got asked to be on the kind of the planning committee for Teen Book Con, which is I'm not really part of it anymore, but it's
Hmm.
still kind of a thing that goes on here in Houston, I think in May or June. And it's they bring a bunch of young adult authors to one
Okay.
of the local high schools, and the kids come out for a day, and they get to actually sit in on panels and actually talk to these authors, and they really do enjoy it. And one of the perks of being on that committee was that the night before, we would usually have just kind of a little mixer between the committee members and the authors. They would all come out to like one of the local bookstores, and we'd have like light refreshments and drinks and talk. And at one point, I ran into Holly Black, who is she's a YA author. She writes a lot of fantasy, and
Hmm.
my fiance at the time um, loves her. And so I told her, like, while I was there, I told Holly Black, I said, my fiance loves you. And she's like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, she would die if I could get her to come, but it's only for, committee members." And
Yeah.
so Holly Black goes, uh, can I have your phone? Because I was texting with my fiance at the time. I'm like, sure. And so she actually texts back and starts talking to her, tells her who she is, and that was just a really sweet moment. Especially as a librarian, you'd like to see people connecting with their favorite authors, and so I kind
Yeah.
of got to see that in a very real way. And so that's just a cool little story that I wouldn't be able to tell if I weren't a librarian. So
That's really cool. That
yeah.
is definitely really cool to hear. And so, like, does your library have guests or guest authors that come in,
Well,
or
we usually see, of course, we're part of libraries are part of the government, basically.
Mhm.
And so we're kind of like one department or agency within the government. And so a lot of the planning for like author visits and stuff is done kind of administratively above our heads. Um, with that said, if I were to develop a relationship with an author and see if I could get them to come out to my branch, I would, of course, take that probably through my branch manager to administration and be like, "Hey, I know this local author. Could we get them to come by, my library or something?" And then what admin would probably do at that point is be like, "Oh yeah, and then let's see if we can set up visits at some of the other nearby kind of local branches and stuff like that." Or if it's a big name, like I don't know, like Neil Gaiman, not that that's going to happen anytime soon, but like, you know, but like then they would be like, "Okay, well let's also get him to like the bigger branches too and stuff like that." And so like that's kind of how that thing works. Yes, we do have them, but it's not really as easy to set up as just like one of us calling them or sliding into their DMs on Twitter and being like, "Hey, can you come over to my library?" Like there's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of there's a lot of, I guess, gateways that you have to go through in order to get it to happen.
Okay,
So,
I gotcha.
you know,
I
but yeah,
gotcha.
it is a thing that can happen.
So speaking of events and doing that, in the past, I've seen you post about having a game or like a teen group or a gaming group
Mhm.
where Smash Brothers is played. Now,
Oh yeah.
I've never seen a library video games in a library. Never at all. How did you
Okay.
do that? First of all, how did you do that? Second, what games were played? And three, who is your pick for Smash Brothers?
Oh boy. Okay. So first thing, first part of the question, how I did it. When I became the teen services librarian at my current library, like that had kind of already been done. Video games started to kind of break into libraries, I would say
Hmm.
probably in the early 2010s, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But it was kind of a slow thing. Graphic novels kind of followed a similar path. And essentially, like I had some experience with that at HPL. And then by the time I became the teen services librarian at Harris County in Clear Lake, basically the person before me had already like they'd had a Wii and everything. I came in right at the tail end of 2017, which was the perfect time for me to request funds for a Nintendo Switch for the library. And my supervisors seemed to love the idea. I had some ideas about like the types of games I would want to have people playing in the library.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we made it happen. And I think it was maybe a year after that that Smash Bros. Came out for the Switch, Smash Bros.
Yep.
Ultimate. And let me tell you, to this day, that game still gets teens, tweens, and kids wanting to play it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of one of those things where if I put it out there, somebody's going to come in and want to play it.
Yeah.
What was the second question before who I play on Smash Bros?
So what games are allowed
Okay, so the games that
for your tournament or for the play?
Right. It's usually free play, and if there are a big enough group of kids together and they decide they want to do a tournament, they can go ahead and set that up themselves. I let them do that. But usually the games that we tend to allow, I usually want multiplayer games,
Mm-hmm.
because I want as many people to be able to play the Switch at the same time as possible. Like
Yeah.
I had some kids requesting that I load Fortnite onto the Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, that is never going to happen as long as I'm here. I don't have anything
Mm-hmm.
against Fortnite. I finally started playing it a few months ago, and I get it now. But the thing is, like, on the Switch, that's a one-player game. Like, you
It
might be
is.
playing online with other people, but only one person has got that Switch. And so I was like, no, you can't do that. But, as long as the game is not rated M for mature, then generally it's okay. Like I've occasionally I've seen kids playing like indie games on the Switch,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's just their handheld Switch, it's fine. But if they put their handheld Switch in the dock that's connected to the library's TV, and I see people in chat on the game like cursing at each other, I'm like, okay, guys, you can't really do that.
Okay.
But as long as like Smash Bros, Mario Kart is really popular as well. I've had people like the library has a copy of Super Mario Maker 2, I believe,
Okay.
and we don't have it, but I would be game to get it if people requested it. I believe there are several different Mario Party games for the Switch that I'm sure people would really have fun with.
There are
So
many. I think they're up to.
yeah.
Oh, geez. I know Gwen asked for one of them.
Well, there
There's too
was
many. There's too many.
there's another one coming out for the Switch on the
Yeah.
latest Nintendo Direct. They
Yeah.
announced it. So I've never been much of a Mario Party guy myself. I mean I know that they're fun to play and everything, but like I like games that usually have a story or an action RPG element to them or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, and as for who I main on Smash Bros, I only had time to ever learn one character, and that character has remained consistent throughout the Smash Bros franchise. Do you want to take a guess or do you want me to just tell you?
The one that's remained consistent. So I played Smash when it very first came out for the N64.
Okay.
I've played in tournaments with my brother-in-laws at Game Crazies, at Game
Okay.
Stops. The one character that everybody seems to choose, no matter what, because easy to use, has always been Link. But the one consistent character that, besides Link, that people always seem to gravitate towards, for some reason, is Kirby. So it's either got to be Kirby or Link.
It's Link.
It's Link? Yeah.
It's Link. And it's funny too because like some of my teens, of course, are amazing at Smash, and
Mm-hmm.
they can kick my ass to be perfectly honest about it, without even trying. But like it's funny because when I get Link, for the most part, I can at least give them a tiny bit of a run for their money, and in some cases, I'll even win, which always like it's both a surprise, but it's also like a you have earned our respect, old man. So
There was one tournament I did when this was for the GameCube Smash Brothers, and I was at Game Crate. No, this was at a GameStop. Me and the brother-in-laws were there, and My main is Luigi. I choose the most
Okay.
random person, and
Okay.
I'll try to get good with him. So I chose Luigi because everybody make fun of Luigi. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to choose Luigi. I'm going to get good with him.
Now, are you
Uh,
one of those? Are you one of those people that will dress Luigi in the like pinkest costume you can find?
no, 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 no,
Oh, okay, okay.
no.
Because like I could already see people like they would make fun of you because you play Luigi. But so if you dress up in pink and then humiliate them as Luigi, like that is like poetic, you know?
Oh,
So
I would so my main has always been Luigi. My
uh,
first backup is Peach, and
okay.
just imagine getting beat by Peach with a frying pan.
Oh,
That's humiliating.
I have gotten beaten by Peach with a frying pan and a golf club
The
many
golf club,
times.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then my third backup lately, because of the different versions have different crossover characters. I'm a big Terry Bogard fan, Fatal Fury, so he was my pick.
See, and I know that some of my teens loved him, and I did get some of the the DLC characters when
Yeah,
they came out, but like I have no clue who that is. I've never known who that is. I'm just like, okay, Terry Bogard, there you go, you got him. So go nuts. I saw that there was like Richter and Simon Belmont from the
yes.
Castlevania games, and I'm like, I know who those guys are. But like Terry Bogard, okay, all
Ter-
right.
Terry Bogard looks like the truck driver that escaped the '90s. Trucker
Yeah, he
hat.
does. No, he does.
But so I was in this tournament, and me and my two stepbrothers, or not stepbrothers, brothers-in-laws, are at different TV sets. They split us up because
Okay.
normally, because they would pick the top two of each TV to go on to the finals. So one's at one TV, I'm at one TV, and the other brother's at the other TV. And my first match is one Luigi versus three Links. Three Links.
Okay.
And all you hear is because they keep doing the spinning attack. And
Right. Yeah.
so I just got to the point where I'm just going to hang off, either float in the sky with with Luigi's little kicks, waiting for them to eliminate each other just to make it to the final two,
Right.
or just try to somehow duck and and dodge and try to get to it. Because eventually the final four participants for the whole tournament was me, my two brother-in-laws, and another little kid who again chose Link. So it was the final match was Luigi versus Link versus Donkey Kong versus Captain Falcon. And it ended up coming down between the two brothers. They battled it. I got third because we'd
Okay.
always play against each other all the time, so we got good at it. But they battled it out, and Falcon won. So interesting game. But I just remember like going to my first match, it's all Links. It's the next match,
That's funny.
two more Links, and then somebody else. And it's just like, oh man, guys, come on, no more Links.
I mean, and it's funny too because like you know, when I was their age, I had all kinds of time to play video games and
Yeah.
learn all this stuff, but the games of course weren't as advanced as they are now. And
Yes,
now like a lot of kids they have like Smash Bros clubs at their schools,
they
and they
do.
will spend lunch times playing each other and learning the characters, and then they go home after school and they play and they learn these characters. And I'm just like, I had to sink a significant amount of time into just learning the newest version of Link for Smash Bros Ultimate. And it's like that's all I got. Like I got a job, I got a life, I got things to do. So
We had so when I was in college, I went to Art Institute, and we were in the AV room, and we would somebody would sneak in their Wii U, and they would set up and play Smash. Well,
nice.
it got so popular that we had like a room full of like 30 people just watching us play, and in passing the controller and everything like that. Well, one time
Okay.
it got loud to where finally another teacher pops in and goes, "What the hell's going on in here? What are y'all doing to the TVs? This is the AV room. This is for video production." And we're literally using like a $5,000 TV setup plugged into it to plug the Wii U into it, or a Wii into it, to play Smash Brothers with
Yeah.
everybody like in office rolling chairs
Yeah. I mean,
spinning
why
around.
wouldn't you at that point?
So I quit when that happened. I quickly grabbed my controller from the port, like just pulled my controller out and just kind of rolled away from like walk through everybody else with my backpack. I'm like, I'm out. Don't want to get caught. I'm close to graduation. Don't want to get caught. Uh, and that was fun because the guy who orchestrated all of that, he eventually got in trouble. He actually got caught plagiarizing his work, having somebody else do his work for school to graduate for art and everything, and that was a big deal. So that was all a thing. But I remember that we just had this big Smash Brothers tournament in the audio video production room, and what we didn't realize was that when they would plug the game system in, the system would record the play or record the audio, and if you didn't erase it or export it or do whatever, it took up memory. And this is back in the era where, like, if you had a 1 gig flash drive, you were rich.
Yes.
You were rich if you had a 1 gig flash drive. So they would always be mystified. They'd always be mystified as to how their high-end production TV was filled up with audio memory when nobody's supposed to be in there during that time. So, you know, it was us.
Really funny, actually.
And
Like, go ahead.
I was gonna say they ended up just locking the door, so you couldn't get in there without someone unlocking it with a key to get you in for class.
Yeah.
So
that makes a certain amount of sense after a certain amount of time. So
yeah, it does.
That's great.
But yeah, that power of Smash, the power of Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah, it brings people together and it tears friendships apart. You know,
it's the new Monopoly. It's the new Monopoly.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it is. In a lot of ways, it is.
Rage quits, and rage just kills relationships.
I've had so many teens and young adults like get really mad and storm out of the program space that I have set up for the Nintendo Switch because they're just so pissed off at their friends for like spamming this one attack and there's nothing they can do about it. And I would get those complaints like, you know, Mr. Tony, he's spamming PK Fire or something. And I'm like, dude, what do you want me to do? Like, the game allows it. You've got to find a workaround, you know? And, you know, like, I remember kids getting upset. They were telling another kid that they couldn't play with Little Mac. And I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Mac, I remember the Little Mac controversy.
Yeah. And I was just like, as long as Little Mac is on the ground, you're in trouble. What does that tell you? Get him up in the air. Figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Don't come whining to me, because all I'm gonna say is, like, is he using cheat codes? Is he using a game genie or something? No? Okay, then get back in there and play, you know? So
I would just say, for anybody listening, YouTube Salty Rage Quits. Smash Brothers Salty Rage Quits.
Oh no.
And watch those videos. They are hilarious. They're so much fun to watch and enjoy.
That sounds like it sounds a little bit like Elden Ring fails that I'll sometimes watch. Have you ever watched any of those?
I've watched a few of those. I have watched a few.
Those are really funny. But Salty Smash Rage Quits. That's okay.
It is hilarious.
Okay.
Worth a watch. And you'll see one guy keep showing up. I forget his name, but there's just one skinny guy that keeps just showing up, and he keeps getting filmed because he enters all these tournaments throughout that area. Okay. And because, you know, Twitch and streaming and all of that is popular for the last few years. So this guy's on a ton of different tournaments, Twitch streams, a ton of different tournament streams, and it's hilarious because he gets so upset. He gets so, like, you know, just invested in one character. And there's even one video where apparently he was supposed to enter a tournament and it was supposed to be over within 2 hours, and his ride is leaving. And he's in the middle of playing. And they're like, dude, we got to go. You have to leave.
No,
we have to leave. Daddy's going to get mad. We have to leave. And it's hilarious. It's just,
oh God.
Oh my, that kid. I hope the drywall in that kid's house is okay.
I mean, I can feel the cringe just from that description, you know? So, wow.
It's hilarious. But we're getting to the moment that I talked about. part of the show where basically when I get a guest on, I want to ask them questions, trivia, this or that, read their mind of something that they like to enjoy. And I know on your podcast, we talk about comics.
Mhm.
We always talk about comics, and it's fun. So these questions are this or that type of feel.
Okay.
So one choice or the other. And when you give your answer, really dive not really dive into it, but kind of give a reason why you chose that.
Okay.
So your questions pertain to comics, but in a way of when a new artist or writer takes over, something with the character always changes, whether it be
Yes.
an appearance, a costume, a color scheme, a haircut, something changes. And there have been debates about this or that, which one is better? Why can't it go back to this? Why is this person different? Something always changes. So these are those questions
Okay.
that it's a this or that.
All
Do you
right.
do you
I like
prefer
this.
this or do you prefer that? So to give you a kind of startup, so let's question number one: Spider-Man, web pits or no web pits?
Ooh, so many people get really excited about the web pits when they see them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess if you were reading the comics from the get-go, then I can definitely understand kind of the nostalgia behind them. For my own purposes, I can take them or leave them. I don't mind them being there, but I don't need them to be there. And so like when I saw them in Spider-Man Homecoming, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool,
Okay,
because I think they helped him glide at some point.
they did.
And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, and I see an actual use for them right there. But like, I don't think the web pits showed up in some of the subsequent costumes, and I didn't miss them, so I can take them or leave them. So I guess the default answer for me is probably no web pits. So
Because I think Ramita added them
okay,
originally. Eric Larson added them whenever he would draw them. Ed McGuinness was kind of back and forth whenever he would draw Spider-Man, with and
okay.
without. So artists have their flavor; they have their style with that.
Did
Um,
McFarlane use them
he
or
did not.
okay? All right.
He did not. I think the reason why he didn't use them was because of the different poses that he would have Spider-Man do, and they might get in the
Yeah.
way.
That makes sense.
So I
That
think
makes a
he
lot of
didn't use them.
sense.
So yeah, that's the first one. So
Okay.
that's kind of the first question, just to kind of get it, to
Get
see
the ball
where it's
rolling.
going, just kind of see where it's going.
Okay.
Okay. Second question: Superman, red trunks, no trunks.
I mean, for me, it's got to be red trunks.
Got to be the
And
red trunks.
yeah, a reason for that is because my first ever envisioning of Superman is Christopher Reeve
Mm-hmm.
from the old Superman movies with the John Williams score and everything. And he just looked like he just looked majestic to me, to my little kid brain, you know. And I of course never wanted to wear like underwear on the outside or anything like that, but like because that image of Superman was kind of burned into my brain, and those movies, I mean, those early Christopher Reeve movies are really good.
Yeah.
And so like he was done in such a noble fashion that at least for me, you gotta go with the red underwear. You just gotta, you
Yeah,
know.
it's
I'm,
classic.
yeah, I'm willing to hear arguments for no underwear, and that's fine. I've watched a couple of adaptations of Superman without it, and I
Hmm.
haven't been upset. But if you give me the choice, I'm gonna put the red underwear in.
I think
So,
when Jim Lee did the design for New 52 with Superman without the underwear, without the
yeah,
trunks, people really liked it because it made him look more like an adult.
yes,
Um, Same thing with Batman, because Batman had the black tights out. Those kind of went away whenever the Tim Burton movies came out. They kind of like
right,
quietly got rid of it. It's made an appearance here and back a few times, but mostly Batman wears pants now. He does the pants thing.
right.
But Superman, because he's more of the everybody loves Superman type of hero, and
Mhm.
he's so majestic, he's so above human. above humanity type of a being, that the trunks do fit. That's kind of like his mainstay.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree. I agree.
so so there's that. So yeah, I agree. Keep the trunks. That's just classic. Superman's a classic character. You can't really change that. You
Yeah.
can't really change that. So next up, jumping from one, a DC monarch, to another one,
Okay.
Batman. And he's kind of having it's kind of the way different artist does it. Do you want the cape in the front or the cape off the shoulders? The cape off the front emblem or the cape off the shoulders?
Oh, okay, I see. I mean, for me, it's always been the shoulders. The cape coming off the emblem just seems like it's gonna create more drag, and just visually to me has always been awkward on the very few occasions I've ever seen it.
Hmm.
I always seem to recall seeing it coming off the shoulders. So,
Well,
so yeah,
the emblem comes from the first two Tim Burton movies,
right.
the animated series, because he would have that look where he's draped in the cloak with
Okay,
like a cloak
yeah,
like
you're
type of
right.
look.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and so you have people who love that look where he's mostly hiding in the shadows, but now we have that generation of the Christian Bale fans and the Ben Affleck fans where it's off the shoulders and he can fight more. You have those fight
right,
scenes.
right. Yeah, no, you're right about the Michael Keaton. I completely forgotten about that. And I would say probably aside from Christian Bale, Michael Keaton is probably my favorite Bruce Wayne Batman. So, um, as for like the cartoon, like I almost feel like that doesn't count because I always feel like the Batman costume in the cartoon was more it was always kind of portrayed as more clothy
Hmm.
than it is maybe in the movies or the comics where it's more of like armor and maybe a little bit harder and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Keaton did find like they did. Tim Burton found a way to make that work in that movie because I barely remember it being like that. And so you're absolutely right. I do think my answer is going to stay on shoulder though.
No, that's perfectly fine. People have their preferences.
Yeah,
People enjoy, the style and everything. So that's just part of it.
yeah.
Next up, Captain America. Wings on the head, no wings on the head.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one. Um, so when I started reading the comics and becoming aware of Captain America, he had the wingtips on his head.
Yeah.
However, when they finally gave him his costume in the Avengers, um, or hold on, yeah, the costume that he did end up wearing in the Avengers, that one did not have wingtips on it, if I
Nope.
recall correctly. And I think in Heroes Reborn, they took and Ultimate in the Ultimates, I think they took away the wingtips and everything. So there are plenty of iterations of both of those. And uh, I think from a practical standpoint, I would probably say no to the wingtips,
Hmm.
simply because just tactically, that's another thing for your opponent to grab you by when you're in a hand-to-hand combat with them.
True.
But
True.
but I mean, they're also like they're ornamentally and stylistically significant too. So, oh God, I'm not sure where I land on this one.
They are the
Um,
wings of justice.
they are. What is your position and why?
Ooh. So for the movie aesthetic, I could see them not working because yeah,
Yeah,
they would look kind of silly.
yeah,
But for the comics, that's part of his costume. That's part of his whole
right.
motif.
Yeah,
Just like his pirate boots and his pirate gloves, it's part of his motif.
right.
But the head wings, the wingtips, you see people again. It's a silly little thing, but you see people go back. I'll see people go back and forth on Facebook and other places about that little detail, just
Oh yeah.
that little detail.
Oh yeah. No, I get it. I have been taken to task over mechanical versus organic web shooters, you know. So
Yeah.
no, I understand that. But yeah, I guess if I had to pick one or the other, I'd probably say without. Like I definitely like them, but I think from a practical standpoint, they're a liability, and I just haven't missed them too much when I haven't seen that.
I
So
think in later iterations in the comics, they were painted on his helmet or painted on his
yeah,
head
I
instead of
think
them
you're
actually
right.
being like a physical like attribute. They're like painted
Yeah.
on.
No, I
So
think you're right. And that I don't have any issues with. So, you know, it's a nice
okay.
compromise.
it, it it definitely is. It definitely is a nice compromise. So this final one is kind of a big thing because
Okay.
I've seen it. People get in arguments because of the art style.
Okay.
I've seen people prefer one or the other due to when it comes to making their costume or their cosplay. Uh, with all the movies this character has been in, with one coming out next month, we've seen photos of both kind of being used in the movie, and people are like, "Well, which one is it?" So it's about Wolverine.
Okay.
It's about Wolverine. Do you prefer the claws coming between the fingers or on top of the hand?
Ooh. So basically the difference is are they coming out the knuckles or not? Or above the knuckles,
Are they coming out
basically.
between the fingers or are they coming out above the knuckles?
Yeah. I I guess I'm a little surprised that this has been something that people have gotten so caught up in because it's something I've never noticed. I guess when I on the very few occasions I've ever tried to draw Wolverine,
Mm-hmm.
I've usually put the claws in between the knuckles.
Yeah.
And I guess simply because he has three of them, there are three spots here on the hand that are not at the edge of the hand
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of seem to work. But I mean, if he wanted to do above the knuckles, it's just like maybe a half a milli or a half a centimeter shift in one direction. So I I guess between the knuckles would be my default answer with the proviso that either way just is fine by me. So,
Well,
but I,
because
yeah,
I mean, with cosplayers, they'll buy those knives that have the handle where the
mm,
blades fit in between the knuckles. They'll
right,
do that.
yeah,
And when you line your, if you have your arm straight, like you're making a fist, they would go through they would come out through the knuckles. Having it come from the top of the hand means that the blades have to come up, shift upward to go through the little holes on the top of the knuckles to
yeah,
pop out. There's a different angle, like a track, that
yeah.
would have to go up on. And so, and then in the latest in Deadpool Wolverine or Deadpool 3 coming out, there's been photographs of Hugh Jackman using the tool where he's got his claws coming between the knuckles. But in other uh, stills from the movie, he's got the three little dots on top of his hands where the blades would come out of. So
I feel like they're trolling us at that point.
either we're getting multiple Wolverines, or that's just a flub, depending on what source they're going for with. But if you also watch the X-Men Origins Wolverine, the very first X-Men movie, the blades came out through the knuckles because they did that little. They have that special effect with the fake hand where the blades are sliding through the skin,
Right,
coming between the
yeah,
knuckles.
yeah,
So this has been a big detail where like comic book fans nitpick and pick
right.
fights, and this all comes down to comic book artists, how they want to draw Wolverine, how they want to have him pop the claws.
Mhm.
But this is just the first half of that debate,
Okay.
because the second half is, are they pointed cone shaped claws or are they blades that come out? And it all depends on the artist too.
It does. It does because I remember when Wolverine had the adamantium ripped out of his body. Those were bone claws. So
Yeah.
they were as if my memory serves me correctly, they were like, you know, they were lengths of bone with just like a kind of a conical point towards the end.
Yeah, like they were
Um,
stabby, not cutty.
yeah. And then when the adamantium was on them, they seemed to mostly be blades
Yeah.
to my memory. So damn, that's another detail that I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Um, and really, I would be willing to buy the explanation that, well, you know, the adamantium is just shaped into a blade for the purpose of being grafted to a skeleton, whereas the adamantium is off, then that's the natural formation of the bone and all that. But I mean, let's be honest. Usually those blades are really thin,
Yep.
and the bone is not. Like the bone is usually fairly thick. And so I'm just kind of wondering about the physics of that, you know? But yeah, I mean, I guess for my own part, with adamantium blades, with bone, I'm okay with the cones. But if they made them into blades, I'm not gonna have an issue with that either. So, you know, I like to think I'm pretty easygoing about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's just, and like, again, these are just small the things I picked up. So like that I picked up during the week when I like look at debates, like comic book debates, like
Right.
minor, minuscule things that people debate about or go back and forth on because of people's just personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like another one I saw that was really stupid was Punisher with the headband, without the headband,
Oh God.
with the trench coat, without the trench coat for Punisher.
It's funny. I was just watching. I on my channel, I do like a watch
Yeah,
along stream every Friday, and I've been making my way through the second season of the '90s Spider-Man animated series,
yeah,
and so I caught the episodes with the Punisher in them, and in those episodes, he's got the coat and he's got the headband, and I
yeah.
just took one look at him, and I'm like, it's Marvel Rambo, and that, I mean, that's how he looks, and it was hard for me to take him seriously. I guess if you were to ask me that, I would say no headband, no trench coat, but different strokes for different folks. Now,
Definitely is.
if you don't mind, I would like to ask you one of these questions,
Okay, go
and
ahead.
I've already asked it: mechanical or organic web shooters?
Mechanical. It
All
shows
right.
off It shows off Parker's smarts. It shows off how intelligent he is. That a kid at 15 years of age was able to
Supplement his
create,
own. Yeah.
create, modify, build not only web shooters but the fluid that dissolves in an hour that has a constraint steel, like properties of liquid steel.
Yep.
What kid does that during
Yeah.
during that time period?
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays because of YouTube and Google, kids can have access to do stuff like that. That
Right.
like the world is limitless. But back then, this kid was memorizing the elemental chart in his science book
Yep.
and building these things, and that is insanely crazy. So mechanical. It's no shot against Tobey Maguire. He's great. Seabiscuit go, but still mechanical all the way.
You and I are of like minds on this particular topic. I feel the same way. I like the idea of, a gifted kid who falls into some spider powers being able to kind of augment and supplement them
Hmm.
because, I mean, because he's smart, yes, but also it's established in the comics that the spider bite probably also gave him some instinctive knowledge about how to create that particular type of webbing, which, I'm fine with. I'm fine with. Um, the big argument that I get for organic web shooters, though, is that essentially the reason that it appeals to a lot of people is because they like the idea that anyone can be Spider-Man.
Hmm.
And that, like another argument that I hear is, well, if you're bitten by a spider, then, why would you not get the webs? And I'm like, well, because they can cling to walls too. And people are like, well, yeah, but ants can do that too. And I'm like, yeah, but spiders still do it, but
True.
the argument that people, and anyone could theoretically be Spider-Man is very powerful to a lot of people who, might not necessarily be that smart kid or that, that intellectually gifted kid who does that.
Hmm.
And so I can understand that appeal. And yeah, Tobey Maguire, he popularized it, made it look good.
He did.
And so, when people prefer one to the other, I mean, I definitely have my preference, but I certainly don't begrudge people the other one, So,
I don't begrudge them at all. I don't tell them I find it wrong. It was good for the movie. It made sense for
yes.
the movie.
Yes.
It worked for that. But yeah, I got to go mechanical. It's part of that character's intellect. It's part of his
Yeah.
motif to
No.
make those things on the fly. Now, if we did get a Spider-Man 4 with Vulture, and Toby didn't create the little clicker that nullified Vulture's flight abilities,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have thrown my shoe at the screen in the theaters
Okay.
because that's how smart Parker's supposed to be.
Right.
That's how
Right.
smart he's supposed to be. So, uh, I'm glad we finally got mechanical movie web shooters. Finally glad that happened.
Yeah. No, I was pretty happy about that too. So
So, we're reaching that time toward the end of the show, and I just want to thank you, Tony, for coming on, giving us some insight on the library system, giving us some insight on the summer reading programs, and also your taste in video games. So, where can these people find you? Where are you at online? Just give yourself some plugs.
well, so I have a YouTube channel which is just Spidey Librarian. And currently on that channel, I'm doing a lot of live streaming. I basically stream watch-alongs of various things. I'm gonna finish up season 2 of Spider-Man this Friday,
Okay.
and then after that, we're gonna have a vote on what I do next because I'm gonna take a break from Spider-Man and then I'll go to season 3.
Okay.
But right now the choices are between Doctor Who on Disney Plus, um, Primal on I don't remember what service that's on, but I like the concept of it, and then Star Wars Andor. So
Okay.
those are what people are voting on at the moment. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm doing live streams of gameplay. And currently, I'm working on The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I'm trying
Okay.
to level up all my armor sets so that I can take on the final bit of the game and hopefully complete the story soon. And then after that, who knows? I might play a Star Wars game. I might play Spider-Man 2 again. I might do something else entirely. I was playing
Okay.
Shadow of Mordor recently, and that was a lot of fun. So,
Well,
um,
so what system
oh,
are you playing on?
um, so for Legend of Zelda, I'm playing on the Switch, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, that's obviously Switch. Yeah.
And then for the other games, it just kind of depends on what the game is and where I can get it. Um, I I will generally try not to play games on the Switch because I like achievements, and the Switch doesn't have them.
Okay.
So I'm playing Shadow of Mordor on Steam right now, and I'm
Hmm.
playing Spider-Man 2, of course, on the PlayStation 5 because that's the only system that will play
Okay.
it. So,
I
yeah.
think it's on there as a free game for PlayStation for the PSN. But if it is, because it is Shark Week, I'm suggesting the game Man Eater, where you play as a
Man,
shark. You
really?
play as a shark,
Uh-huh.
and you evolve up to get, and eventually you get powers. Like you get like bone powers, shadow powers. But it's a fun game. This is the game that Jaws should have been, but
This sounds
wasn't.
kind of awesome, actually.
You play. So the story sets up as that there's a shark hunter or a gator farmer that's out in the swamps. Because you start in the swamps before you move to not Miami.
Okay.
So you start in the swamps, and this gator tracker hunter captures your mom, which is a bull shark, and
Oh.
kills your mom,
Oh.
rips you out of the womb and throws you into the water, left for dead, the baby shark, and you fend for yourself on bent on revenge to take him
Wow.
to take him and any other person of authority out.
Oh my God, this sounds awesome.
It is so much fun. You earn powers, you eat other fish and other things, and each creature that you eat is like either fat, it's protein, or electrolytes to
Right.
for different uh, uh, buy system to evolve your shark, to either give it like bony armor, to give it Dracula teeth, where you get health when you take a bite out of something. It is crazy fun. They just released DLC where you're fighting mutant versions of uh, other animals because of radioactivity leakage and uh, tinfoil hat podcasters that are out there sabotaging the world. It is hilarious, and
My God.
the narrator, because the whole premise is that basically you're doing a natural like a National Geographic type of storyline. So you have a
Right.
narrator who's narrating over you as you're playing, because technically this is a film, this is a documentary. And the actor they got is Phil Dunphy from Modern Family.
Oh, wow.
He's narrating over it.
Okay.
And the game is just so much fun. I highly recommend it. It is
Okay.
stupid. You could get lost just swimming around eating things for like hours, not realizing that you have to do challenges and races and everything. So highly
That
recommend that.
sounds amazing.
Oh, it definitely is.
So it's called Maneater,
It's called Maneater. Yes.
and what systems is it generally on?
It's on the PlayStation 5. It's on
Okay.
PlayStation 4 and 5. It's on the Xbox One and the XS. So
Okay.
and it's also on Switch as well too. It's on Switch as well.
Okay. All
But
right.
it is a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I saw the trailer when it first came out, and I'm like, I've got to get this game. And I drove straight to Target after work. Well, I take that back. I drove straight to GameStop after work. They were sold out. They only got 5 copies in. They sold out for all systems. Drove to Target. In their case, they didn't have it in the case. I'm like, crap, I missed out on it again. Guy comes over, scans the barcodes. Oh, we got one in the back. Goes to the back, pulls it.
Yes.
I got the last copy. At
Oh,
that Target.
nice.
So well worth the game. It is just so much fun. And
Okay.
and in buying the physical copy was only like $30. So it was already
Okay.
really cheap to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
And because it's Shark Week, I mean, I've got to promote that game. It's just so
Oh
much
yeah.
fun.
No, absolutely. That sounds awesome. And I'll have to at least go search some videos on it.
I
and
mean,
have a
just
look,
YouTube
so.
the trailer itself, and
Okay.
you'll just be like, I've got to play it. Because
All
you play a bull shark that's just so much fun. It's I'm not going to give too much more away, because there are things that you get to do
Okay.
that imitate movies. There's Easter eggs from other pop culture things that are in there. And when Phil Dunphy starts explaining that pop culture, he has to stop. There's one that he's about to say what it is, but he has to stop himself, because he's like, "Oh, we can't say this because it's trademarked." So, but you know what this is, and it's just
Nice.
hilarious. It's just fun.
Nice.
So,
I always love cultural references like that. That stuff's always fun.
it's just a lot of fun. So definitely go check that out. But
Will
again, thank
do.
you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for being this guest for this show. And I will have to have you on again in the future,
Oh, absolutely.
because when summer ends, for me, that's when the horror movies begin. So, and
I
brackets are always on the horizon.
I don't think I've told any of my viewers this yet, so I'll be saying it first here. But in October, I'm probably going to switch my watch-alongs to horror movies and horror shows.
Okay.
And then I may or may not switch to horror games for my gaming streams. We'll see. I've not always been good about sticking to the horror, because I can watch a horror movie and I can play video games. You would think I would love to play horror video games, but when you are in the driver's seat during a situation like that, it's different from watching it, and you get a little bit more fearful. And so we'll see. I have to see what horror games I have access to, and then which ones I'm willing to give it my all and try to play. So, but yeah, no, October for me is the month to do that. So
It is. So, all right, listeners, you heard Tony. Horror games on the horizon. I've got horror brackets on the horizon. Things will be happening. But until then, Tony, again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for enjoying this episode. And for everybody out there listening, you made this far, give yourself a high five. You can find us, or you can find Front Row Negative. You can find us on YouTube. We're on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We are on Stitcher, I think still. We're on pretty much anywhere a podcast you can find. We are there. We have merch. Go to TeePublic, type in Front Row Negative. You will see a green logo that looks like the anarchy symbol. That is my logo. If it is not associated with that, report them, find them, and beat them with wiffle ball bats. That is not authentic. But really, neither is some of the stuff I've done. But still, we have merch. It's in the links. Go support this indie artist. And until next time, just remember, never unfriend, just unfollow. And also, Chris, if you've made it this far listening, poncho still sucks. I'm sorry. They need to raise the flag and retreat and stay out of the food business. People like to keep their stomachs. People like to stay healthy. Nobody likes the Black Plague. Nobody. Not even the rats. And I've seen some bad horror movies. So, until next time, this is Aaron with Front Row Negative, and later.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, check out crossthestreamsmedia.com to hear more episodes of this podcast and the other shows on the Cross the Streams network. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your favorite shows. Visit crossthestreamsmedia.com for more information. See you next time.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.